Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode on the Let's Trot Show, where we dive deep into the NRL finals. I'm your host, Josh Mansell, and today we have a special episode lined up for you all. It's the business end of the NRL season, kicking off with week one of the NRL finals. For today's episode, we have three incredible guests joining us to break down all the action, insights, and predictions for the big games this weekend. Sit back and enjoy. What's been the standout for you, Gemma?
Without being too biased, obviously the Bulldogs. It's been an incredible season for them.
What needs to change for the 2025 season?
I hate the dropout. Like, you should be able to reward a repeat set.
Panthers versus Roosters. Let's surgically pull apart this game.
Yeah, I think Penrith every week have got a strong advantage with Nathan coming back. And that's why I think it's important. Like Reni said, they got to send Crichton at him and make him be physical.
I don't know. I feel like there's this could be an ambush by the Sharks.
You're well aware that no one's giving you a chance, but it's all on the finish because these finals games, highly emotional, players go.
All right, boys, let's kick it off. Thanks for joining us today. Jimmy, I'll start with you. How's things, mate?
Going all right, mate. Going all right, Sauce. Exciting end of the season.
Yes.
I think I'm ready for a break.
You are, yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
I know one thing. These seasons don't really do you any compliments because you're looking really burnt and it just started.
Mate, I know. Mate, I know. Mate, I had to put the zinc on in winter and I just can't escape it.
The spotlights. You get sunburn from spotlights.
I actually genuinely do. Like,
Who's that light?
being a ginger has its challenges, my friend.
Oh, Reddy, you don't got that problem, do you?
No, mate, not at all.
Well, let's start with you. How's things, mate? What's
Yeah, all
up,
good, mate. Busy with work. Do podcasters get a Mad Monday?
Do they?
Oh.
Surely.
That's a very
They do
good
fight
question.
nights now.
Yeah,
There you
no,
go.
I won't do a fight night. I'll do a Mad Monday.
Well, speaking of fighting, Jim, are you getting in the ring for wrestling? Is this true?
Yeah.
This is fair income.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you tell me how that even come about?
So I was at the Beer Footy Food Festival where PWA do their thing at halftime. So I'm talking with one of the geezers there, and he's like, "Oh, would you be interested in doing it?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah," like not really thinking much of it. And then one of the wrestlers walked past and went, "Oh, he wouldn't last 2 minutes."
Oh, is this the dude you've been going back and forth with?
No, he actually is in the WWE, but he used to work for PWA, which
Yeah,
is the
right.
Aussie one. So he's like, he's fired at me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's happening. Yeah, I'm doing a tag team on the 13th of October, Sunday after the grand final, a week after the grand final. So yeah, I saw Latsy box, obviously Gal, a few other ex-40 players have boxed. Todd, have you boxed?
Yeah. Oh, no, I wouldn't call it box.
Yeah.
I've been in the ring. I've
You've been in the ring.
Yeah, I've been in the ring.
I'm getting in the. Mate, at least you had the courage to go. I'm getting in the ring. Yeah.
How good. Will you be oiling yourself up, or would you go with the traditional Vaseline that you normally used to use?
Elbow pads,
That's
knee
a great.
pads.
That's a great idea. Actually, I am gonna maybe a bit of a spray tan, bit of oil on. But don't want it to mix though. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
I love it. I love it. Toddy, mate, what's going on? How'd your footy season finish up with Byron Bay?
Yeah, we're finished in Byron. It's quite good actually because it's the first time I'm comfortable for the season to be finished and not worried about playing or coaching any senior footy. Next year anyway.
Yep.
My role at Keeper has given me that footy fix, and that's finished now. Our boys finished third. Our year 10s won it.
Beautiful.
Which is good. And yeah, I drove down yesterday. I'm picking up a dog tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah.
what breed?
American Staffy.
Oh, nice.
So I'll drive back with him tomorrow. So it's good to be down here with the boys.
How good's that? Well, you doing
Can you not fly a dog back?
Yeah, I can, but then I thought, I might as well just come down and pick him up. I'll cruise back. You can fly with him, or you can get him in a cart or something. Put a cart up there or something. I don't mind the drive. Yeah, so
Put him express post.
I had a couple of stops yesterday, but tomorrow we'll drive him back. I'll stop a few times with him because he's probably going to be thinking he's not a little puppy, so he's probably going, who's this bloke? Put me in the front seat, just chilling with me.
kidnapped me.
Yeah, he's kidnapped me. So I'm a bit. I'm not nervous, but yeah.
Well, back with your footy, are you officially retired now? That's it, you're done, or would you still be running around next year?
Nah, I'm not playing no more. It's just my body could handle it, but it's just too much time away from my family. And,
Yeah.
I think I'm going to do some more commentary with Triple M next year, so that will free up my weekends with that and no footy. I'll probably miss it, but I might just play a few charity games here and there.
Yeah, that'll be nice. That'll be nice.
Yeah.
Well, boys, let's get right into it. Let's just recap the NRL season of 2024. A lot of ups and downs and unexpected turns. But what's been the standout for you, Jammer?
Without being too biased, obviously the Bulldogs. It's been an incredible season for them. I think quite rightly, most people writ them off, said they were a couple of middle short, they're missing a halfback. They've signed too much of the same style of player, but it just goes to show what Coach Cam Serraldo and his staff have managed to implement around some people in the building, some people out the building.
Yeah.
That connection with one another, it's been very impressive. It's been great to watch, and I think some people felt that they were going in the right direction, but their ability to compete week to week, obviously the last two games, we all every team, well, most teams go through that a little bit, and they started the season 0-2, finished the season 0-2, but we'll be right for finals.
Culture makes a hell of a difference, huh?
It does.
Ren, what about you, mate? What was
I'm going to jump on the back of that.
Of course
source,
you are.
I'm very proud of the boys. And as a former player, you like to see the club doing well again, and the systems they've got in place. And obviously, as Jammer said, the last 2 weeks weren't with the way we want to play, or
uncharacteristic.
The systems that are in place. So going into the semi, it's a new season now, and I honestly believe, I think throughout the season they got in those grinds when they didn't need to.
Yeah.
I think if they had the foot on the throat a bit longer, they could have put teams away. But that builds mental resilience and toughness within the group. I think the back end of the season, they looked a little bit tired. You miss Kurt Mann, big loss.
Massive.
Huge loss in the middle. Well, they're not robots, so a little bit of maybe emotional, physical fatigue because they're not a lot of experience within that squad. And then it's a new competition now.
Yeah.
So excited for them on Sunday.
Got to flick the switch now. What about you, Toddy?
Yeah, just before I start, but it's good to listen to two former players speak about the Bulldogs and riding that wave with them, because there's been some sort of down periods for them, but it's good to see two blokes pop up when they talk about someone that's achieved or a team that's achieved. It's good to be. For me, it has to be the Storm, just with the way they've played without key players. A lot of teams this year have sort of come out and made excuses, we're not going well because we've lost our halfback or our 5'8" or our fullback. At stages this year, they've lost Munster and Pappenhausen at the same time. And Jerome Hughes just seems to hold that team together. Obviously, Craig Bellamy does a really good job with the team that he's got around, and we talk about culture and stuff. But just the way that they've finished 6 points above on top of the ladder, they've been there the whole year.
Yep.
And they haven't whinged once about who they've got out. They've just gone on with their business. They've moved players when they needed to. They've had a young kid come in a few times. He ended up getting injured, Jonah Pezzett. But it's just crazy for them to do that, because on the other scale, you've got a team like Parramatta lose Mitchell Moses throughout the year, and their season's done because they've lost their halfback. But on the other scale, you got a team that's on top of the ladder, just dealing with it and getting on with it, and they're probably my tip for the comp.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really great point. For me, my standout was the New South Wales Blue Origin Series win. Mate, what an Origin Series. That last game in particular up in Brisbane. The way it started first, let's rewind. The way it started, obviously getting convincingly beaten by Queensland on our home turf, then having to go to a neutral ground, winning there, then having to go to Brisbane, where we all know it's a most hostile environment in Origin football, and I think the percentage rate to win an Origin side in Brisbane was very, very slim. So history wasn't in their favour, but the way they finished and won that game to lift the Origin Series and how physical that game was. It's probably one of the most physical Origin Series that I've watched to date. Do you guys
So I was at the game, right?
Yeah, I was
I
there
had
too.
my seat. So I got tickets off Queenslanders, but so I was sitting with the Queensland families. It was quite close to the field. The collision, mate. Honestly, we've played great a long time. I was thinking, I am fucking so glad I'm not out there.
Yeah, likewise.
Mate, it was just end-to-end brutality. It was awesome. And it was unreal to actually be a spectator, watch Origin live like that, and obviously get the win. Wearing a New South Wales scarf in the middle of Queensland.
I don't know if that's a smart thing.
It was one for the purist that first half, wasn't it? It was 2-0 at half time. Everyone looks at the new eyeballs on the game and they want to see the stars do highlight reel stuff.
Yeah.
But we were all watching that game just going ding dong.
Yeah.
And
More
that for me
attrition.
is way better viewing than having these miraculous tries that we see too often.
Yeah.
Like, it was good to see such a tight contest. Like, that drew my attention anyway.
Well, that's what makes Origin footy so great. Jamie, you can kick us off yet again. What needs to change for the 2025 season in your eyes?
Oh, for next year, I would obviously this bunker summit / review. We need to make some changes.
And what's that in particular?
I think we need to have some clear guidelines on what is and what isn't a penalty, what is and what isn't a sin bin, what is and what isn't a send-off, so that all stakeholders in the game, from pundits, commentators, fans, players, coaches, administrators, everybody knows. So if an incident happens in round 1 or in the trials or round 2, round 10, Origin, week 27, prelim final, it looks the same.
Yep.
So clear understanding of the interpretations, the rules, the consequences, with both high tackles and obstructions. I think they've been two big issues in the game that have been very consequential in terms of determining results. So I'd like to see that addressed, and then how we address that. Do we go, a team of 3 in the bunker as opposed to one person making that decision? You put that one person all on their own, and they've seen it from a different angle. But I think if you've got 3 people in there, so ex-coach, ex-player, match official, and you have the majority, hopefully it's unanimous, but more, if it's not, it's a majority. I think you take away the margin for error if you use that system.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really good point.
Is the bunker's not at the field, is it?
No, it's at
Like a headquarters,
yeah,
right?
it's in Redfern. So
Right.
yeah, it's like a huge room. It's a huge operation.
Yeah.
But no, it's not. It's not at the
Well,
game.
okay. So if it's a huge operation, obviously you can't have that at every stadium. I'm just thinking, like, just having a feel for a game, like without being at the stadium, would that make better decisions? Like, I feel like we have these summits every year, or have an understanding of what's going to be the rules throughout the year, and then 5-6 rounds in, it changes.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
guess
inconsistent. Yeah.
I guess obviously the referee relays the sort of his or her sense of
Interpretation.
the incident that's happened, but they should be able to determine whether or not an obstruction has been or should be ruled on, or whether or not a high tackle is a penalty, a sin bin, or a send off, and it should be clear that the overwhelming majority of the viewers or the listeners or the fans go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I see why that's gone. And we can disagree whether or not, that should or shouldn't be an obstruction. If we go back to the black and white version of, like, no, you cannot run behind your player, you cannot be in the defensive line. If we all understand that, then everyone goes, yeah, I get it. Or if it's high, if it's high contact but there's nothing to it and the referee misses it, it's just play on. We all accept it. So if we get everyone on the same page with clear understanding, then we get a better product and we get a better buy-in from the people that are watching the game. And it's not this state of confusion where I'm going, that should be a no try because of an obstruction, and Todd goes, no, it's a try because this happens, and a high tackle happens, and 1 week it's 10 minutes for me, but then the next week for you it's not, and then Todd gets sent off. It's like, it shouldn't be that way. It should be, it should look the same each and every week.
Yeah, I agree. What about you, Ren? What needs to change, mate?
I've got 2, mate. Play the ball with your foot.
Oh my God, that has been
Play the ball with your foot. So I got stuck into my nephew. He plays under 13s. Was at Roosters Academy, and he dropped the ball twice trying to do the dump through the legs. I said, mate, piss that off. You play with your foot every time. They'll crack down on it soon.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. I don't like it. And you know what they do? They dump it with their foot, and then they take a step forward to the marker can't engage with the 9 or whatever. So it's a little, but we haven't. They exploited the rule because we didn't crack down on it. It's pissed me off all year.
There was a crackdown a couple of years ago.
And then they went away.
Yeah, they went away. But I think the actual ruling around that is you got to make a genuine effort in playing the ball. So you don't necessarily need to touch it with your foot, the ball. But this year, it's almost like touch footy. It's just the players have taken the piss. So
just touch it with your foot.
Yeah.
And we spoke off there. I hate the dropout. Like, you should be able to reward a repeat set by not giving the opposition a 50-50 chance to kick a short dropout with no consequence.
Yeah.
No penalty, nothing. It just doesn't make sense. Like, look, think of Reynolds, like how much he puts into his craft of rolling it into an in-goal area.
Yeah.
And then you're giving the opposition a 50-50 chance.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It doesn't make sense to me. So
Risk and reward doesn't
Scrap
really
that.
marry up. I agree. How do you combat that? Like, obviously, I'm not a fan of the short drop out. I can't
Yeah.
stand it, especially when the ball is kind of floating in the air, and as a receiver, you don't know if you can contest it, because it's obviously you only contest it once it goes 10, right? So why not eliminate that confusion and give the receiving side an opportunity to attack the ball if it does fall short? What do you reckon on
I
that?
just think blow it up. Just like
Yeah.
if you don't kick it past the 10 or it goes out on the full, you penalise.
Okay.
And the team gets an opportunity to take the 2.
Okay.
Simple as that. It gets rid of it straight away.
Like it, Toddy?
Yeah, I'm going to have to jump on the back of Rens. Being a former half, it's you work so hard on it.
I know.
And that kicking game as a half now has sort of gone away. So a lot of teams run on fifth tackle now, or they change the way they're going to kick. But then even when they do get the repeat set, there's no reward for the kicker, because our kickers now work on their short dropouts and they're starting to master it. Very rarely do they kick it out in the full. Very rarely does it doesn't go 10. So they're getting it. So the momentum is with the team that's just got a short got caught in goals.
Yeah.
So it doesn't go to the attacking team all the time. So I feel it just needs to go, because it's just it doesn't give any reward to the team, because one, they take their time, they do the short, and even if they do kick it out in the full, it's still time. So you're actually not getting any reward for a short 10, because it takes 30 seconds to do the kick. If they kick it out in the full, then they've got to go back to where they're going to take the tap or the scrum in the middle of the field.
Yep.
So when you get a repeat set, you've got the team under pressure, they do the dropout, and you set up a big play.
Yep.
But now you can't, because you don't actually know where the kick's going to go, and you very rarely do you get it back.
And on top of that, like if you roll it in and it goes dead, you're copping a 7 tackle set.
Yeah.
I don't think
And
that's-
if they don't get it back, it's a knock on, or the ball goes somewhere. So there's more stoppage in play. So you don't actually get a reward for a short 10 anymore, for a kicking goal.
Mine's a 6 again, man. I can't hack it anymore. Like I've seen 3 6 agains in a row, like particularly on a goal line. Like, we all know it's the easiest place to defend. You're not going back as far. You can obviously ID the play, what's in front of you much earlier. But I think players especially are now identifying that you'd rather give up a 6 against set rather than being exposed in numbers on the short side.
Imagine being a middle forward.
Like, Jen.
I was an edge.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You know, like,
Yeah.
fuck, mate. I would retire on the spot. If I had to make 2, 3, 4 back-to-back tackles as a middle forward, I'm going to soccer or something.
Yeah, it took some getting used to. I don't know if they can go back there now. I don't know if they can go back.
Really?
Because I think what they're trying to do is like ball in play more versus those stop and get as much continual flow. So the alternative, if we go back, is instead of giving a 6 again, the referee blows a penalty. And then if you blow a penalty, that stoppages. And I think that goes away from where the people who are in charge of the game want the game to go. I think they want a more flowing game.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like we talk about like all the head-high contact, right? Like there's so much fatigue in the game, and it's a lot of that is off the back of the 6 again rule, right? So what happens when you're so fatigued? Your technique goes out the window.
We're in a real
head knocks.
Yeah.
We're in the game's in a transition right now. Like we don't know where it's going. We got soft tissue damage. We're getting more headshots because of the fatigue factor. It's going to take a few years before we sort of. Do you know what I'm understanding here?
Yeah, I
Because
understand.
we still haven't worked it out ourselves.
Yeah.
We don't know where the game's going just yet.
There's so many questions about
So
it.
many questions.
For the players, they've got to go out and perform to the best they can. They've got to be as fit as they can, as fast as they can. But they don't know where the game's going to get to. So even clubs signing players and like for the Bulldogs this year, they went out and signed a lot of utility players. Like that could be where the game goes. Teams might now go do what the Bulldogs done, sign utilities, blokes who can last in the middle. Yes, they're not big, powerful bodies, but they withhold pressure of the 6 again, the repeat sets, things like that. So for players, it could be the days of the big fella gone.
Yeah.
Todd, you could get to a game where the biggest players on the field are the outside backs
Yeah.
because they're doing all the carries.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Like the wingers and the centres are taking those those carries in the middle.
Yeah.
They're getting them out of trouble, and the middle players just become almost pure defenders.
Yeah.
Like let the edge guys get them forward, and then they take shape, and then if they get into attacking field position, then you take shape. But the middles role will be, maybe the days of forwards going over 100 meters will be a thing of the past, because your role is to just defend, offer some shape, and the guys on the edges do all the hard stuff through the middle of the ball.
The top teams at the moment are the teams with the best back five. Cronulla's found form the last few weeks, not through Nico or Trindle. It's through their back five starting to carry, coming off the back fence. Penrith the last few years have had their really good wingers in Taruva and Toto.
Yeah.
The Roosters are the same. Like, they've got big bodies coming back. So their middles actually don't touch the ball till play 4.
Yep.
And it's usually a play 4 carry to get the quick play the ball for the kick, and then they just roll down the middle of the park. So
we even see fullbacks taking that play 4 into 5 because they're the best at getting the quick rucks, and they don't need to be on the kick chase team.
Yeah.
So it is funny where you speak about like where the game is going towards, and it's usually the NRL will make a change, and the smart coaches go, well, this is now how we're going to play.
Yeah.
They're always looking for ways to get ahead of the game, and I think you're both right in terms of like it's interesting to see where we end up, because teams are still catching up and figuring it out.
Yeah, I think what I like about maybe the quicker ruck and the speed of the game is the 14s come back into the game.
Yeah.
So I think maybe around 12, 13, you went for a big bench to combat maybe the Rabbits. You had all the Burgess boys, they were big side, so you went with 4 big guys on the bench. And that's where the 14 sort of went away for a few years. Now, the reason I have Melbourne as probably my favourites is because of Wishart.
Yep.
Bringing back the utility in that 14 role, that's where I see if you have a good back 5 and a good 14 and everyone else does their job, you're gonna have a good season.
I'll throw another question at you, Reni. Well, what player has had a breakout season in your eyes this season?
I really like the Anderson, and who's the other kid in the centres? Howarth.
Yeah.
Because when they're down in Melbourne, you kind of expect Melbourne to be at the top. I don't watch every game. And I was thinking, who's this centre and who's that winger? Like, I think they've just been outstanding the way they've just come into that side. That the centre, that Howarth, like.
Well, Q Cup players last year.
He was a former back row, I believe, and he's a Kiwi too. Mate, he's special.
Yeah,
you know, and that's that production line down in Melbourne. There's been some great kids that's come through. Like Katoa had a good year. I don't know what happened towards the back end of the year, but he's another standout. You know, he built off the back of last year. There's like Galvin. There's a few, but I really enjoy seeing these Melbourne kids come through, especially on that edge.
I love it. What about you, Toddy?
Yeah, mine's going to be the same with Jerome Hughes again. Like, I know that he's been in the game for a while now, but I feel it's his standout season because of the players he hasn't had around him. I think he'll lap everyone for the Dally M, unless something drastic happens. But I just think the way he's handled his business, there's been no hype around him. He doesn't come out and do it. He just does his craft. He does what he needs to do for that team. And like I said, it's when your 2 best players are out and they're recognised as the 2 best players every week when he's playing, for them to be out, for him to step up every week like he has, but then when they come back, him don't go back to how he was before. He stays in that same dominant role where he sort of let Munster just sort of ease his way back in. He's a special player because he's obviously got the pressure of the team now. Yeah. When his superstars are out, he performs even better.
I love that. What about you, Gemma? Your take?
2 players from the Roosters, I reckon, that have had breakout years. One, Angus Crichton. He started the year in New South Wales Cup, had a massive off-season, worked his balls off. Coach Robinson says, you're going to start in Cup. Now, I'm trying to think what it's like to be in that situation, to be gunning for a starting spot, have a whole pre-season. Right, he gets his spot, he gets his origin spot, then they go and sign for Fita.
Yeah.
And he just goes up again.
Yeah. Didn't
like,
sulk.
In terms of breakout years, that's a big breakout. And then also his halfback partner in Sammy Walker again last year was dropped, got injured. And I just think we've seen from him like a real like a breakout year in terms of like his ability to read the defensive line. So, Todd, you can probably speak to this a bit better, but that short kicking game, like what is it like when you've got half an eye, you've got to know where the fullback is, know who's jamming, know where the opportunity is. Like, is that instinct? Is that repetition? Is that just knowing the play? Because for me, as a middle forward watching, it's annoying because I'm thinking, like, why are you allowing this to happen? But there's so much that goes into that.
Well, Semi's the thing first. So he thinks run first, even though he doesn't carry a lot. But then he's got his short kicking game to fall back on. He leads his kick every time he kicks, and it's from his dad. His dad and brother coached the Ipswich Jets when he was a younger kid. They ended up winning the comp, the style they played. It's just backyard footy. He backs his ability back too. Even when he got dropped back last year, when he come back last year, he doesn't change the way he plays. The Roosters changed to complement him. They moved Radley to the edge.
Yeah, they did.
Because for a while, and I love Radley, he's exceptional ball player in the middle, but he was touching the ball more than Sam Walker.
Yeah.
So Sam Walker had to sit back and wait for him to make the decision of if he was going to play at the back or short, where now Sammy can step up and play his footy. And I love watching Sam Walker in the wet because he just manipulates the defence, because if they rush out at him, he'll kick behind them, like, okay, you bring it out. And half the time he gets there and scores, or it's just instinct and just backyard footy. And I love that, because when Sam Walker was coming through the school stuff at PBC, there was big raps on him about this kid that's coming through, and all these other kids the same. Weaver, Toby Sexton, they've all had the same raps, very similar style of footballers, but the clubs they've gone to or people that they've gone in front of have coached them out of it, coached that style out of him, where Semi Walker's stuck to it. And you listen to his family talk about that. He's that special player because he sticks to his guns and does what he was doing when he was a kid. So
Love that.
yeah.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
That's great insight. Thanks for that. I think one player, and obviously headlining this for the Wingers Union, I want to mention Zach Lomax. He was always the promised one in the Dragons' eyes, and this season he has been unbelievable. And I think you have to thank Shane Flanagan for that, because obviously his transition from centre to wing was a revelation. And I'm actually keen to see how the Dragons go next year without him, because they obviously lose their main goal kicker, and he was kicking out a pretty high percentage this year. They lose that aerial threat. The way he chases after that ball and always competes. He's scored 15 plus tries this season. He also earned himself a sky blue jumper. Now, he goes to Parramatta next season, and where does he play? Does he remain on the wing? But he's obviously gone there to play centre. So he's actually got a bit of risk at play, because he got selected to play for New South Wales on the wing. Does he relinquish his winger jumper by playing centre at Parramatta next season? Well, then centres, you've got obviously Latrell, you've got Tommy Turbo maybe, you've got obviously Bradman Best. So there's a lot of depth in the centre position there, but obviously you've got Crichton, thank you. And now that, I think the only position up for grabs in that backline will be that right wing.
That right wing.
And who's breathing down his neck? Your man, Jacob Kiraz. Player this season at the Dogs, 4,000 plus running meters. He was averaging 175 average running meters a game. He's another one that could be a bolter next season.
We actually miss our go forward when he goes to centre, Kiraz.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
You know, when he's on the wing and he's not taking those carries. But for Zach, a lot more work on the wing. You're going to get the ball far more.
Exactly.
Like, why wouldn't you just hold on to that spot? So he might. I think Rolsey's got a decision to make.
Who's Paris Centre's Penasini?
Penasini, and you've got currently
Blaise Talangi.
Blaise Talangi.
He's gone. So.
But again, you've got like Sean Russell on the wing. You've got Maker Sevo, who apparently has been reported that he's been tapped and they want him to move on. But yeah, it'll be a bit of a merry-go-round in the outside backs. Anyway, that was great chat, boys. Let's dive into our first game this weekend. Obviously, Panthers versus Roosters. Let's surgically pull apart this game, which I'm sure it's going to be a cracker. Reni, I'm going to start with you, brother. How do you see the game plan for both teams, and what adjustments can you see for both these sides to really pull apart? Pull apart.
Penrith will just stick to their system. Nothing changes for them. True. They'll strangle you to the 79th minute, you know. And for me, the Roosters are defensively struggling, and it's ever since Radley has gone to an edge. They're not as solid through the middle. There's too much inexperience. Jared suspended.
They don't got Radley now. They don't got Walker.
They haven't got Walker, but they're leaking too many points for me. If they can fix their D, and someone mentioned maybe I'd be sending a lot of traffic at Cleary. I would just be doing bob sets, blind open, blind straight at Cleary for the first 15, 20 and just see where it gets them. But if the longer it goes into an arm wrestle, I can't see Roosters sort of being able to hold Penrith out.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
What about you? I want to get your insight in the middles, James, because you obviously got two big packs. Lindsay Collins going up against Fisher Harris. Which pack are you kind of leaning towards to really dominate that middle?
Lenu against his old club as well. Like,
it's going to be fireworks, that's for sure. It's going to be a bloody war.
Again, your 2 cents. No one knows his team better than Robinson, and he'll devise a game plan. I'd have Lenu off the bench.
That's what I was about to say.
Like, I think he brings more to the contest and increases your chances of winning with him coming off the bench. I think the way the Roosters have got to set up, first off, they've got to sort out their completion rate and their discipline, because it's hurt them too many times this year, where even the game against South Sydney, like, they were in complete control. And I think that man, Spencer Lenu, made 3 errors in like the first 10, 15 minutes. Can't afford to do that, especially at the best of times. South's made them pay, and they basically chucked the team. It was a patchwork South Sydney team. This Penrith team, if you give them opportunity, if you self-inflict those opportunities, they're going to capitalise, and they defend leads better than anybody else.
It's true.
And they play that grind game where they're constantly asking questions, hand the ball over to you in corner. Like we said before, Cleary will run on last, run into a corner and say, do your best. So if you're Roosters, you've got to be disciplined with the ball, not make silly errors, and then when it comes to defend, don't give stupid penalties away. There's the first most important thing. I think any middle at this time of the year fancies themselves. They really do. They know the role that's going to be played. If we look at how finals games historically have been played, it's a much faster pace. Teams are genuinely more conservative because they're aware of the potential consequences of making errors. So teams compact their middle a bit more, send a lot of traffic through there. And then also these games are normally won in the last 10 minutes of the game. Sure. So you've got to have the fitness and the conditioning to back yourself against your opposition. And even if they're getting the ascendancy on you, it's about having that ability to stay calm and think, well, I'm coming at you. You've come at me. I'm going to be coming at you a little bit later. Let's see what you're made of. So this battle between the Roosters and the Penrith Panthers pack, I think, we look at Fisher Harris, Leota, but it's Isaiah Yeo and his ability to create opportunities for his teammates. So people say, you got to stop Cleary. You got to stop Luai. Yes, you're correct. But how do you do that? You go back a play before and you stop Yeo. So if I'm at marker, it's an easy decision for me to just point to my right and just move into that space. I look after Mitch Kenny and then my job's done. No, with Penrith, it's different. I'm there at marker. I'm on Kenny. I'm moving right. He's passed the ball. It's released right now. I'm going to make an effort to go and shut down Yeo. And it's a simple thing. It's very hard to do, but it makes the huge amount of difference, because if you stop Yeo going 3 or 4, 5, 6 paces into the line, it shuts down Cleary's spot. So no one is going to say, didn't he do a great job at marker there? No. But if you can guarantee those people in the Roosters team will know, those edges will feel it. Those people that play on the edge will feel where Cleary and Luai get to based off what their middle's willing to do. And it's a big sacrifice because it takes a lot of effort. It sounds very simple, but that's what the Roosters need to focus on.
Yeah, I love that. Toddy, you touched on Sammy Walker. Obviously, he's out, and the Panthers get Nathan Cleary. I honestly believe that the kicking game is going to be so crucial to this game, and that's when I kind of lean towards Penrith, because you got the left foot of Jerome Luai down that channel, and then you obviously got the best kick in the game in Nathan. But the one thing I feel that the Roosters are lacking is their long kicking game. And you could probably shed a bit of light on that. Like, do you see the Panthers obviously having a strong advantage over the Roosters with that?
Yeah, I think Penrith every week have got a strong advantage with Nathan coming back. And that's why I think it's important. Like Reni said, they've got to send Crichton at him and make him be physical, continue to go at him, don't go away from it until he either... He's not going to fold under pressure, but you need to take some gas out of him. And I know Jerome's been doing a really good job for Penrith in the absence of Nathan. But for me and the Roosters, they've brought in Sandon Smith, and I think everyone that watches Sandon Smith play New South Wales Cup or when he comes into the team, he plays really well, but they've got to let him play footy. They've got to let him control the team like he does when he plays New South Wales Cup, where I think a lot of the pressure goes to Keary. Keary's a good kicker, but Sandon Smith is an out-and-out 7. So let him take control of the kick and let him do what he does when he plays New South Wales Cup, and let him be the controller and let Keary do what he does when he has Sam in the team, because Sam and Sandon are very similar the way they play.
Yep.
Very instinct, touch player is Sandon. So I think they need to let him, give him some reins and let him control the team and let Keary sit on his other side of the field, because you notice when Sam's out, Keary does a little bit more. And I think sometimes more is not great, because it goes away from what Keary does best. He's taking short sides, running the ball, getting advantage on a quick play of the ball, where when he's got to control the team, he's got so much going on, and he neglects his proper part of his game, which is a fast over line running game. But the thing is that everyone's going to wait and see how Nathan turns up. The last time he was injured, he come out and put on three man of the match performances. But for me with the Penrith, I was watching another night and I was talking about it yesterday to someone. 7 of their players have got their knees strapped.
They look
really
busted.
heavy.
Dylan is busted. He's on one leg.
But we're talking about a team going for a 4-peat. They know what finals footy's about. And they're going to be ramped up. It's going to be a packed house out at Penrith on Friday night. And I'm the same. You talk about their middles, but their big alpha males out. Jared's still out. And there's the other players out, Sam and Brandon and
Victor.
It's a big challenge for the Roosters, but they seem confident. They've got to be, because it's finals footy. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I've got a feeling that Dominic Young is going to be on the receiving end of a lot of bombs.
Yeah.
A lot of bombs. With all that said, who wins? Who's your tip?
I think Penrith win.
Penrith.
Yeah, last game at Penrith Park.
Yeah.
For a long time, the emotion of the occasion and what's riding on the line. Penrith.
I'm going out there on Thursday. I'm going to take a big chunk of dirt and grass home with me. Plenty of great memories on that field. All right, boys, our second game, Melbourne Sharks. Jammer, kick us off. Obviously, Melbourne, minor premiers. But the Sharks are one of 2 teams that have beaten Melbourne down in Melbourne this year. And I don't know. I feel like this could be an ambush by the Sharks. I feel like the Sharks always play their best footy when they're the underdogs. And I think when you look at head-to-head, I think the Sharks have had the best outside backs, the back 5 in particular this season. What about you? What do you reckon, Jammer?
Yeah, look, this, for me, from a Sharks perspective, you're well aware that no one's giving you a chance and an opportunity, and obviously you justify that call because they went out the back door 2 years ago, and then they lost their one final appearance against the Roosters last year. So, and everybody spoke about it at the start of the season. Yeah, they got off to a great start, but they got a soft draw. Let's see what they're made of when they played. I think in 3 out of 4 weeks, they played the Roosters, they played the Storm, and they played the Penrith Panthers. They passed 2 of those tests. I think that was a big lift for them. Since then, they've sort of bumbled along their way. They've been a bit scrappy, been a bit inconsistent. Obviously, Nico being out for an extended period of time didn't help. But the Sharks go down there with people like Cam McInnes, people like Nicola, people like Ronaldo, Braden Trindle, who's in great touch, with an attitude of like, we're not going to be making up the numbers here. And that's what's going to drive the Sharks. I think they've got a really quality team on paper when they gel. Yeah. They look really good. Even that game against the Warriors, it was just, they really should have put it away. They had 2 tries taken away from them. If that goes their way, it's a different story. It's a different narrative about the Sharks. But it's a tough ask to go to Melbourne. They've done it before. They've got the evidence. So again, when you're talking in the dressing room, it's not like, I think we can beat these. It's like,
we've done it.
We've actually done it, lads. Like, we've already done it. So we know we can do it, which is very different from the other. We talked about that game before where the Roosters, they haven't beaten Penrith in such a long time. It's all right to say, I think we can do it, but then we failed the last however many times it is. But the Sharks, they're hanging on to that bit of evidence that they can.
Well, that's the thing. They've got a bit of scar tissue, obviously bundling out of the finals like 2 years in a row. But you've also touched on Nico like not playing didn't help him. I think the opposite. I think it actually helped the Cronulla Sharks play with better form, just because it's enabled them not to rely solely on Nico's performances to get them the wins. Like everyone's had to come with their A game, and it's obviously unlocked. I think Braden Trindle, who's got a tremendous amount of out of Nico's absence. And I think a lot of it's going to go down to how's Nico going to perform in this big occasion. And you know, he's had so many big moments this year where unfortunately he hasn't been able to ice. Like, I know things have been out of his control, like game 1 in Origin, they go down to 12 men after less than 10 minutes. Script goes out the window. He had a sideline conversion where he could have iced the game. He couldn't slot it over. He's come back against the Warriors and they lose at home. Like, there's a lot of head noise around Nico, and you probably could relate more because obviously being a half, do you think you can put all that behind you and step up to a big occasion like this, Todd?
Yeah, well, it's a big challenge for him. Then he will have that in the back of his head. Everyone talks about it. We're talking about it. And the Melbourne Storm won't give him a break. They'll go at him. They'll send traffic at him.
Ex-Storm player as well.
They'll put kick pressure on him. The thing for the Cronulla Sharks have to be is Braden Trindle has to step up, and which he has been. But as James said, it's a massive challenge going down to Melbourne. Melbourne won't change the way they play for Cronulla. They'll play what they've done all year.
At any period as well, even if they're behind 12 points.
They'll continue to do what they do. They hit the left edge and then they move either off the quick play the ball, they shift out the back and find their meters that way, and then Jerome kicks down that right side of the field. So Sharks will have their DNA of what the Storm are going to do. It's just how they handle it, and their big players have got to step up. And unfortunately, that's Nico. It's going to be on Nico's shoulders. And if Cronulla go out and win on Saturday, Nico's the man of the match.
Exactly right.
If they go out and lose, it's back to Nico didn't perform again. And
Hey, Toddy, can I ask you a question? Right. So with Nico and Trindle's in great form, in great touch. He's hot. He's doing some amazing things on the field, but Nico's the bigger name. Do you go into that game if you're like Fitzgibbon or if you're Brayley? Are you giving it to the bigger name that's won a Dally M, or are you going to your man who's in great touch?
Well, I think over the last few weeks, they've gone back to that style. They're sharing the workload. And Nico even come out and said, I was listening to Buzz Rothfield talk about it, even though he sometimes talks a bit of rubbish. He was talking about that Nico has put the team first and let the big play sort of moments sort of back in the back pocket and just playing some what's the eyes up footy and letting Braden do some work. And so I think that's the way they're going at the moment, and I think that's why they've really complemented each other really well. More so the last game. I know they got beat against the Warriors, but they still put on 32 points or 28 points in that game. They got away to a really good lead. So... And I like to back up halves too. They go out to a 28-point lead against the Warriors. It's not Braden and Nico that let the team back in. It's the whole collective. But because they're leaders, it falls back on them. So, but I just think it's a tough ask. But like you said, the Sharks are going down there they've beaten before. They're going to be confident, but it's just going to come down to that big moment of who stands up. And we know what Melbourne are going to do. I guess there's always doubt with the Sharks with how they've been in finals before.
What about you, Ren?
I like the way I've been watching the Sharks the last couple of weeks because I wanted to see what am I missing here, how did they get to fourth, because they're up, down, whatever. I think Blake Brayley's a big key to this their attack. You know what defence you're going to get. You know what kind of player Fitzy was. They've got their system in place with their defence. But where do they get their points? I think Britton Nicolade is probably the most informed back rower. Runs great lines. The other back row is at Wilton.
Yeah.
Teague Wilton, yeah.
They run good lines. Hazelton's got a little pass. Rudolph he's developed a little tip. Brayley out of 9. I think as soon as Brayley gets opportunities and they flood off the back of that, they look like a far better attacking team. So I think they're going to go down there. Well, we've already spoken about it. They've got confidence, but the key for me is their forwards, the short passing game. No one expects front rowers to tip. Maybe Jammer was a good lead tipper, But you see Big Hazelton coming over. You got three defenders sort of coming in to engage, and then he tips it to a back rower or someone just pushing up on an edge.
Great trade.
Just, because you find when you have great defensive systems like Penrith or Melbourne, when you unsettle them with an offload or something just out of the ordinary.
Out of structure.
It's like, what? Hang on, we haven't trained for this. Do you know what I mean? So you got to unsettle their defensive line, and I think Brayley's the key for me with that Sharks side.
And then the flip side of that, you've got Cameron Munster playing that ad-lib footy, which is going to absolutely cause chaos, and that's what's his greatest strength, right? You can't preview what Cameron Munster is going to do.
No.
Like he'll go down a short side, and then he'll be like, oh, no option there. He'll bounce back to the middle, and then he'll find maybe a Ryan Pappenhausen steaming through a gaping hole. Like,
I think if you flip the same question that you asked him with Hines and
Hughes?
Trindle,
flip
it in the Melbourne side. Are you going to Hughes or Munster? That's a decision to be made there, right?
Yeah.
Because you see the way Munster played against Cowboys, sideline to sideline, everywhere,
taking the piss,
right? Loves it. Now you got to say, hey, Cam, you're staying on your left, Hughes on the right. We'll link on a long side every now and then. But if you're the 9, if you're Harry Grant, which side are you going?
Well, that's a luxury to have, but it's a luxury to have. So we'll say all that with this game. I think it's a hard one to tip. I'm not going to lie, but just purely off the way Melbourne have been consistent all year and playing in Melbourne, I can't see them losing 2 home games against Cronulla this year. So I'm going Melbourne.
Yeah, I'm with Melbourne.
I'm going the upset. I'm going Sharks.
Yeah.
It's not strong, mate.
What about you, Jabba? Storm. Nice. Moving on. All right, now Cowboys Knights playing up in Townsville. The last two times these teams have met, the Cowboys have edged the Knights by a field goal and a conversion. So not much separating the two. Some stats I want to throw out to you guys. The Knights are the second worst attacking side in the competition, 7 points ahead of the Tigers. So that's a pretty damning stat. And the Cowboys are the third best attacking side in the competition. But to make matters worse for the Knights, they're the worst attacking side in the top 8. And the Cowboys are the worst defensive side in the top 8.
I'm conflicted, right?
Yeah.
So where was that defence all year from Newcastle? Do you have to have an old boys day every week?
Same with the Knights last week.
That's what I'm
The
saying.
Cowboys, the Cowboys. They only conceded 1 try against the Dogs.
And I'm thinking, look, defensively, they won that game against the Dolphins. They bashed them. They were good on the edges. They scrambled. They filled the space. They were aggressive. I'm thinking, fuck, you've had to go 27 rounds to get the 8th position to showcase that off the back of KP as well. And now I'm just like, I don't know if they can go up and do that. And then on the other hand, Cowboys, some of their defence this year's been terrible.
Horrid. Yeah.
Terrible. From 4 men out, like their edge decisions have been poor, but it all starts in the middle as well.
I agree. I think you mentioned KP, and I think it's actually a pretty interesting matchup. Him, Scotty Drinkwater. I think those two hold the keys to the promised land. If one of them don't show up, I can't see him win finals football. I just can't.
You can't, I mean, unless they're going forward or the forwards, you can't just expect them just to create something out of nothing, even though they can.
Yeah.
But you can, just say, KP in Origin. I mean, he couldn't just create that magic. I know it's a far bigger spectacle and a lot of different players, but you could take KP out of the game if you want, if you're a smart team. But, I mean, unless their forwards are doing their job, everyone's doing their role, then KP doesn't get those opportunities to bounce across field, pick up, runners in holes.
I'll throw something out there. Currently, as it sits, if you could pick either Scotty Drinkwater or Kalen Pong on your side, who do you pick? Who do you go with?
KP.
You go with KP?
I'm KP.
All day.
Okay. It's an interesting one because Scotty Drinkwater's had a pretty big season.
He had a bit of a lull,
I think
a few weeks back.
For Scotty Drinkwater, he needs to play a 9 out of 10 performance, I think, every week for Cowboys to win.
Vice versa.
And he's done that. Yeah. And it's similar to Kalen. I like the Cowboys, obviously, because how they can score points and the way they play. My concern with the Cowboys is, and I think he's a really good player in Jake Clifford, but he hasn't played finals footy.
Yeah, big games.
It's going to be a big occasion for him up there at home. But obviously he's got a smart half with him in Dearden. But I question that because it's the Knights will go at him, I reckon.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's one of those, it's an unknown because I've watched Cowboys closely when I've commentated them, and you think, oh, they're home and hose and they get beat by the Broncos. They just leak points. But some of their players, back to that discussion about back five, running the ball, bringing it out of their own end. Valentine Holmes has been on fire.
After Drags,
His goal kicking's he's been really good.
Laser.
So it's a tough one.
You spoke about Clifford, but the flip side of that, you got the Knights, right? And there's been like chopping and changing constantly all season with their halves. Finally, they've stuck with Jack Cogger and our Phoenix Crosland, but he was playing predominantly 9 all year, right? What does that do for a half, like to be constantly chopping and changing week in, week out? Like, doesn't everything evolve around you guys, like the whole team?
Well, for the halves, it's difficult. And it's more so difficult for the team around them now because they need that guidance of where they got to get to, the structure, and I think that's why they're happy with what they've got.
Yep.
Cogger's a really good talker. You know what you're going to get from Crosland because he's just an out-and-out footballer, competitor. He started as a 7 as a junior, and he's moulded himself back to the position. They've got Gamble on the bench. I think they're like I like Jackson Hastings the way they plays, but I just feel that it was just getting too one-dimension for him, so they needed to change it up a little bit. It opens up the field for Jack Cogger's kicking game. He's a handy footballer, and he won a grand final last year, so he won't have that finals pressure on him. But it's a hard. I'm in between who can win. I won't be surprised if whoever wins.
Are you feeling the same, Jammer?
I'm liking the Knights. I am, yeah. I think.
Well, I was going to say, are they just making up the numbers?
That's what a lot of people think. But, Reni touched on a point before about, like, if the Cowboys can shut down a player like KP, I don't know if they can. I've not seen anything to suggest they have that ability to go and shut down a player like him. Like, people look back to the last game, we're very, very reactive in our sport. Like, oh, how good are the Cowboys defensively? The week before, like, a patched-up Melbourne team were all over them. And, yeah, it had Munster and whatnot in the mixer and Farlongo and players like that. They had some good players. But the Cowboys couldn't shut them down. I don't know what chance they've got of shutting KP down.
Do you have an opinion on their defence, Jammer? Because you've got Cotter, you've got Taumalolo, you've got an Origin hooker
They've
in the middle.
got 6 Origin players.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an attitude thing. I think it's a process thing. I think it's their processes. Like, they look a bit lost in certain parts of the field, particularly on their edge defence. Like, there's a bit of a disconnect.
There's a disconnect for sure.
Yeah, so it's not an attitude thing. Like, I'm sure they're going out there like wanting to make tackles and stuff, but I think they're doing too much of it as well. I think their brand of attack and their style is playing that high risk football. So, but when that doesn't come off, they're obviously the flip side of that, they're going to have to defend more.
Well, the thing with Val, because there was question marks over his defence a lot of the year, but I was trying to explain to people, it starts from the inside.
Yeah.
So he's got to make decisions. Like, as a centre, you want to make the right decisions majority of the time, but it's hard as a centre. You're travelling, you're trying to shut something down, but it usually bleeds from the inside out.
Correct.
So I can't put my finger on it exactly, but defensively, and especially against a bloody reserve grade Melbourne side, they were poor.
That was pretty embarrassing.
It's interesting to see if they'll get in the grind because Newcastle will try and put him into that grind of what they done on the weekend against the Dolphins. And I think that's where Cowboys have gone wrong this year. They're not willing to go in the grind. They're happy to play that style of footy where they can throw a lot of points on.
Yeah.
But if you stop them from that style of footy early, I think Knights can have a field day with Kalen.
So you're going Knights?
Yeah, I'm going Knights.
Yeah, I'm going to go Knights.
Me too.
Well, stuff is, I'm going Cowboys. I don't know. I'm not convinced with their attack. I think Cowboys' attack would just get them home in the end. I think they get enough points. Lucky last, boys. Your Bulldogs versus Manly this week. I think it's a game of the round, to be honest. Obviously, there's been a lot of distractions this week off field. But what a turnaround. You'd have to think that the Bulldogs overachieved this year. I know you probably don't like unexpected success. Obviously, their cornerstone has been the defence. We all can agree on that. Their ability to absorb pressure, make crucial tackles, strong work ethic, all the above. But being a former Bulldog, James, I'll throw that to you. There's been a lot of talk around, and we touched on it, about their smaller pack. Could that be exploited this time of the year playing finals football when everything is like slowed down and the refs will kind of let players kind of slow down the ruck a bit more?
Well, look, teams have known what the makeup of the Bulldogs team is now all season, but the last 2 weeks, everyone goes, "Oh, it's been exposed," but I don't think it has. I just think it's been a combination of different things that have led to those performances and those results. I think, you look at this Manly pack and they're big, they're strong, they're very powerful, but if the Bulldogs can just change up a few areas from that performance a couple of weeks ago, they'll be just fine, because I think these games are won and lost in the last 10 minutes as opposed to won and lost in the first 10 minutes. Everyone's going to say, "Oh, you got to start well. You got to start well." And that's true. But it's all on the finish, because these finals games, highly emotional. Players go up a few gears. Like, there's more on the line. It's absolutely desperation stuff. So I'm expecting the Bulldogs team of the middle of the season as opposed to the Bulldogs team of the last season. And it's all going to come down to the last 10 minutes. And what the Bulldogs have shown this year is they have the ability to win those tight games.
All right, Reni, throw it to you now. Do you feel like the Dogs have a genuine chance in beating Manly this week?
They've definitely got a chance. I mean, I'm concerned about the last 2 weeks. So I can't not look at the performance of Manly 2 weeks ago, and they've showed a little bit of a blueprint of just trying to break them through the middle. Like Paseka and Lodge started really well, and I thought maybe it's just one of those games, and we're not really tight around the middle or whatever it is, and then we lose it by 40 again the following week. It's a concern. And I said earlier, Kurt Mann is a huge. I think he really found his position in that side, and he's a smaller body, but he was really getting into the front rowers. And that's a bit of a worry. I don't know. I'd rather start Curran. I want Curran in the starting lineup with probably Max King. I'd leave Hughes on the bench. I feel like I question maybe Ciro's rotation a little bit about having maybe too much inexperience on the field at one time.
I question having Curtis Morin and Bailey Hayward on the bench. I feel like it's almost like for like. Like, don't you reckon?
No, look, Curtis is going to give you energy, and Bailey Hayward he's proven that he can play that 13 role where he can straighten up the attack, pass. I don't mind that there. Okay. But at one stage, I think a couple of weeks ago, he had Hayward, Salmon, Hayes, and maybe Curran on it at the one time against Manly in periods of that game, and I thought that's too much inexperience, and not that there's a whole a lot of experience within that pack. So it's a big it's a big ask. I don't want it to go down to the last 10 minutes. Yeah, Birdo's kicked some field goals, but you got one of the best game managers to ever play a game in DCE. You got Turbo coming back, and I don't want him to go out 3 losses. I really feel like new competition. Yeah, it's all the same cliche bullshit that you can spit out. I just want to see him come out and perform and be proud of their effort. I'd love him to win, but it's a big ask.
You spoke about Turbo. He's obviously coming off the back of a grade 3 AC joint injury. He obviously missed last week. Has anyone done that AC joint here? No?
Yeah. It's sore.
Yeah, it's sore, right? So, I did mine in 2019. I did a grade 3 as well, round 1. I missed 1 week, came back the week after. I was underdone. I was probably 5 out of 10, and I was nursing it for probably around 10 games. And it's not an injury that you can, you can probably numb it, a couple of injections, but that wears off at a certain point. And I don't know if Turbo's got the resilience to really withstand the pressure and the aggression from the Bulldogs, because I'm sure he's going to have a target on his back. If you eliminate Turbo...
Bulldogs are the least of his worries.
Okay.
He's resilient. He's tough. He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Couple of injections before, 1 at half time.
Yeah.
It'll be like you won't even know it's there. It's just
Monday.
Monday.
Depends where the game goes. Is managing through the final series would be the big ask for him. I think on the weekend he'll be fine, but he'll be sore Monday. He could have a sore head Monday too. But I like the Bulldogs' chances. I was excited to watch Manly last week because I thought they were a smoky for the finals. But Sharks really come out and owned them laterally through the middle. Manly was shot. And then I think for sometimes Manly too is we've spoken about Luke Brooks. I've spoken about Luke Brooks a lot, is that he needs to play his best performance all the time, I think, for Manly also to play really well. And obviously Cherry's he's been there, done it before, and many times before. But I like the Bulldogs' chances because they're gonna pepper through the middle. They're gonna throw challenges at him through the middle. And last week the Sharks done that, and they created havoc through the middle. And I think the Bulldogs, the way everyone's been speaking about them, obviously this week isn't great for them, but it seems like they're a club that's, you put them back against the wall, they're going to come out firing. It's going to be a massive game. The crowd, they're talking 50,000. There's going to be some hype around it. And I said it the other day, the distraction of what's going on at the start of the week is sometimes a good blessing in disguise for a club too, because it makes them come together as a group, tighten down, forget the outside noise. Let's focus on what we do best, is playing footy. And yeah, I like the Bulldogs' chances.
Interesting. Like you spoke about Luke Brooks, I think this is going to be a big game for him because all the eyes we set on obviously DCE and Nullify and Tommy Turbo. So all the attention is there and wouldn't be so much on Brooksy. I think Foxy's a massive loss. Purely obviously his X factor ability, his speed, and like as an opposing winger, like you want to limit as much space as possible. So you probably take a couple of meters out, which obviously opens up Bronson Cherry to get one-on-one on his centre and use his speed and strength. But when you got Gerald Skelton there, so as an opposing wing on him, you're happy to kind of sacrifice a few meters because you know you can catch him with speed. So yeah, it'll be interesting what they do there, what they do on that edge. Who wins this game? You said Bulldog. You're happy with Bulldogs?
Yeah, I think Bulldogs will win.
Yep.
I stick with my Dogs sauce.
Bulldogs.
I'm going to go Bulldogs as well. Do you actually think the fans will make much of a difference? Like what's it?
Yeah.
So two Bulldogs, are they the best fans that you've ever played in front of?
Look, I love playing for the Bulldogs fans, and I think back to 2014 where we had this like amazing level of support, but we kind of forgot that. So did South Sydney. I think in the finals this season, Bulldogs are the best back team, and it can be their point of difference.
Ready?
Agreed.
Yeah, nice. I love that. All right, before we wrap up, boys, I need to get a hot take from you. What can you foresee? What big moment can you foresee in this final series? Reni, you look stressed, so I'll start with Jay.
I don't know this is coming.
I'll go. The big story of the finals will be the Dogs.
Overcoming adversity, backs up against the wall. Okay.
We'll see where they go.
Todd? There's been a lot of chat around that last 10 minutes been the biggest difference, right, in these big games. I can kind of see a game going down to the wire, and I don't know what it is about the Melbourne Sharks game. I feel like a field goal is going to be the difference, and I feel like I'm leaning towards Melbourne. I don't know, Jerome Hughes field goal. Oh, what do you reckon?
Munster lights up the final series. He's got that glitter in his eye, I reckon.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Rothfield will take that off, yeah.
I think Sharks can throw a grenade on this top 8 and just surprise a lot of people and get to a grand final. Whether or not they can win it, I think they've flown under the radar. That's gonna be my biggest curveball for these semis.
I love it. Well, it's all on camera, boys, so I'll hold you to account next week. Thanks for joining. Thanks for coming on the show today and taking your time, and enjoy your finals footy.
Thanks,
Cheers,
boys.
Sauce.
Thanks, boys. All right, that's a wrap for today's NRL Final special episode. Huge thanks to our guests, James Graham, Reni Maitua, and Todd Carney for joining us and sharing their insights. Be sure to follow them on their socials, and most importantly, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and show us some love and drop us some comments. I'll catch you next time.